And finally, we're going to discuss the most important issue, not just of Gaza, but for all of the Western world. It is called Dawah. What is Dawah? Is it a call to the prayers? Is it a call to the fold of the religion of peace? Well, you might be laughing, but it's a very serious matter. Okay. Or to discuss its glorious past, the glorious past of the religion of peace. Look, I don't want to say this, but I have to say this. It is a system of indoctrination. It is a system to indoctrinate children, men, women, elderly, young, regardless, to become the next line of suicide bombers. Well, that's the harsh reality. It is a call to jihad and martyrdom. It is a call to the love of death and destruction. Okay. This is an indoctrination into the love of hatred and violence rather than anything else. It is a system to bring the worst out of humanity. In schools, colleges, universities, and of course in madrasas, this idea of jihad spreads like a disease and poisons these children because of this dawah. With billions pumped in from the hard earned taxpayers' money from all over the world, this dawah is the reason why tunnels are built underground, why weapon cache is built in schools, in mosques, in hospitals, in houses, under civilian infrastructure to fire missiles from under. There are tons of videos online for everyone to see what this dawah is doing to the generation of children, not just in Gaza but all over the world. What these kids are learning in the UK or in Australia or the United States. How this poison of childhood indoctrination into the disease of jihad, into the love of death and destruction, will create a more fractured and divided society in future the longer this is allowed. The question is, how are you going to deal with it? And at what cost? And who should pay for all of these things? Have you ever heard of the term called pay for slay? Well, probably you haven't, but you definitely should, because this is how your hard earned tax dollars are being paid to the family of the terrorists who would go to kill the innocent Israelis or other civilians and get killed along the way by the IDF. Okay, your corrupt politicians, without your knowledge or the consent, will send this money to Fatah or other Palestinian Authority or some other corrupt organizations. And guess what they're going to do? They will manipulate your good intentions by showing the sufferings of the children and all these things. And then they will pay the family of the terrorists by encouraging them to create more of these suicide bombers and then sending these suicide bombers into the land of Israel to kill innocent civilians. And once they're going to get gunned down, then your tax dollars will be paid to feed the family of these terrorists. Okay, this is what is happening in the name of Dawah. This is the hardcore truth that no one wants to talk about. And guess what? Knowingly or unknowingly, you will also have the blood in your hand. Blood of these poor victims of these horrific terror atrocities. See, if a mother gives birth to a son or a daughter, hoping that one day this son or a daughter will be a bomb, growing up in the hateful indoctrination of Dawah, going into jihad, becoming a martyr, killing innocent civilian and so on. If this is what a mother values the most, if this is what a mother teaches her sons and daughters, okay, then surely you and I as an outsider are enough to convince these mothers to uphold the values of human rights, isn't it? See, this is the most cynical view, the so called wokeism that has permeated our society to a level of an unrecoverable disease. A disease, let's face it, you reap what you sow. Cause and effect, this is the ultimate law of nature. Who brought upon these death and destruction upon the people of Gaza? They themselves. Why nobody wants them? Every country that hosted them, that gave them shelter, they tried to overthrow the government. Everywhere, all the neighboring countries. It's no surprise that all those countries have abandoned them. Every single country has abandoned them because they teach their sons and daughters this hateful ideology of jihad so that someday this can be used as a propaganda and exploited by another generation. By generations after generations after generations, this hateful ideology can survive and cause death and destruction of the state of Israel. This is the ultimate reason. Not only they teach their sons and daughters to be suicide bombers, they encourage them. They give birth to these sons and daughters more and more so that they can die in jihad, in martyrdom, killing innocent civilians. This is their own making. And my fear is whether this can also bring down the death and destruction of these societies as well. Okay. See, the people of Gaza broadcasted this massacre themselves. They broadcasted it. The October 7 massacres, they broadcasted it. They celebrated this massacre. They themselves. They elected Hamas into the power about a decade ago. Again, no one else but they themselves did all of these things. The son calling the father after killing 10 innocent Jews, that, oh, look, I killed 10 people. The father couldn't hold his awe. And the son was telling, give it to the mom, give it to the mom. The mother couldn't express her joy in any other way other than crying. She cried out of the joy when she heard on the phone that the son just butchered 10 Israelis in the most horrific, in the most sadistic and barbaric ways possible. The mother couldn't express her joy. She cried out on the phone as she was talking. This is what these kids are learning in their homes, in their schools, from their peers. Not only they are teaching their sons and daughters to be suicide bombers, they are actively participating, they are actively celebrating this hatred into the impressionable minds of these children. And with the alarming rise of anti Semitism all over the world, with so many sympathizers of these terrorists who conducted massacre on 7th of October, with so many sympathizers within our midst, I cannot help wonder what's going to play out on our streets in the next couple of years, if not in the next couple of months. They broadcasted the massacre themselves. It's not someone else. They celebrated the massacre. When Yazidis were butchered, okay, when Yazidis were butchered in tens of thousands, 500,000 displaced by the savages of ISIS, have you ever seen any of these protests being played out all over the world, not the least at Gaza? Have you ever seen? It never ever happens ever, does it? It never happens. I haven't seen once in my life when these barbarians butchered completely innocent civilians, a completely innocent community, the community of Yazidis. Not a single protest you saw happening anywhere on earth. So, with so many terrorist sympathizers within our midst, I cannot help wonder what's going to happen next on our streets in the next couple of years, if not in the next couple of months. These people of Gaza, they elected Hamas themselves about a decade ago, and then Hamas did whatever they did. But they have been elected by the people of Gaza. So, where does Hamas come from? A vacuum? No, it comes from the hearts and minds of the people who support them. This is how Hamas is born. As we are getting all too familiar with these protests right now on our street, I can tell you only this, and this is not a very good news, understandably. There are a lot of protests, sympathizers of these terrorists who are organizing these protests living in your next door. And one day, God forbid, something might as well be broadcasted on our street, from our street, by these people. That's the sad news. Unfortunately, that's something you have to keep in mind. What do you think will happen on our streets in the next 5-10 years? What is your wildest guess? Just let me know so that I know for sure that I am deluded. So, as a citizen, I am alarmed. I am very much alarmed, to say the least, out of all these chaos that are taking place, not just now, and what is coming in your way in the very next couple of months, maybe. So, going back to the original point, that what else do you expect out of hatred, out of indoctrination into hatred? Okay, see, the hate must stop. That's the only solution in this mess. If this community learns to hate not just themselves, not just the people around the world, every single thing they touch, it becomes an entity of misery. Every single thing in the last several thousand years, 1400 years for sure, until these people learn to love themselves, this cycle of violence will continue. Have you ever seen a more cynical joke than this, that you expect everything and in return you give nothing? Have you ever heard of a more cynical joke than this? What exactly these people of Gaza bringing to the table? You don't see many Nobel laureates coming out of that piece of land, do you? Not just in Gaza, all over the Middle East, North Africa, all over the world where Muslims are a majority. Have you seen Nobel laureates coming out of these places? Well, I don't. So, until and unless these people learn the, the literature of love, the literature of love, the love of life, up until they learn it themselves, there is no getting out of this mess. See, it is not our duty to fix every single individual, to look after every single individual on earth. They have to learn it themselves. First of all, we have to stop acknowledging the truth, that this is the truth. Until we stop hating ourselves, until we stop patronizing these falsehood, these lies, there is no way out of this mess. And they also have to learn how to live peacefully with the neighbors. They also have to learn to give up this ideology of hatred that has already caused so many deaths and destruction. Hate must stop. Thank you for listening, and I will catch up with you on the next one. Bye for now.